Welcome to this special edition of Snapshot Santa Clarita. My name is Bob Kellar, and besides serving as your host, it has also been my pleasure to serve as a council member for the city of Santa Clarita since 2000. The focus of our discussion today will be the reality of drugs and youth in our community. In 2013, Santa Clarita grew to become the third largest city in LA County, with over 200,000 residents. In Santa Clarita, we all enjoy a high quality of life and live in a beautiful community. However, we are not immune to the issues of drugs and addiction. Between 2010 and 2012, Santa Clarita experienced 28 fatal overdoses related to heroin and other dangerous drugs. While we have seen a reduction in 2013 in fatal overdoses, there remains a significant effort to keep our youth away from drugs. Today, we are going to talk about some positive steps being taken and meet some of those who are on the front lines of the issue. I'd like to introduce our guest today. From the city of Santa Clarita, we have Community Services Superintendent Ingrid Hart. From the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff's Department and Juvenile Intervention Team, we have Detective Bill Velek. And from the William S. Hart School District, we have the Director of Student Services, Kathy Hunter. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Guys, this is an important issue. It's important here in Santa Clarita. It's important in every community across our nation. I appreciate your coming out today. And if I can, Ingrid, I'm going to open up with you.
Okay.
If there is one constant with Santa Clarita, it's the partnerships that make the city what it is. The issue of drug abuse isn't just a Santa Clarita problem, it's a national problem, but here we have a very collaborative effort when it comes to tackling the issue. Can you talk about how the different agencies, organizations, and nonprofits work to combat illegal drugs?
Absolutely. You know, Mayor, if there's one thing that's really special about Santa Clarita is that through our partners, we all are invested in our youth. And you know, that extends from the city to the school district, the sheriff department, our faith-based organizations, as well as our local nonprofit organizations. And specifically in terms of how we combat illegal drug use, we work together. We recognize that we can't do it alone, and it takes partnerships. We develop and implement programs together, and I'm sure we'll be talking about some of those programs today in the show. We also identify gaps in services and programs, and we work together to address those gaps. We also work collaboratively with mental health organizations, and we make sure that our youth and families are connected to the programs and resources they need so that there is a comprehensive, collaborative, holistic approach in dealing with our families in Santa Clarita.
Very good. Kathy, I'm going to move to you. Before we talk about all of the good that is being done in the schools, can you talk about the reality of drugs in our schools? What do parents need to know that many don't, and what kind of issues come across your desk having to do with drugs?
Well, Mayor, I would say about 75% of the disciplinary issues we have at the school district, which were grades 7 through 12, are probably drug-related.
75%? Mm-hmm. That's huge.
Yes, it is huge. The other things that we deal with are some of your basic truancies for students. Occasionally, there might be a knife on campus, but we don't have really any kind of weapon issues on our campus at all, and we end up having a very few fights. So the mass majority of things that our students are actually disciplined for end up being drug-related. And drug-wise, we see the most in the areas of alcohol and marijuana. We do see frequently wax, and we're seeing a lot of edibles, so that students are bringing like Rice Krispies or Jolly Ranchers, and they are all already laced with some type of a drug. The other thing that we see that is probably, I think, the scariest is the prescription drugs that kids get access from at home and take out of apparently their parents' medicine cabinet and bring with them to the school and then sell them off to the other students. Sometimes it's ADHD medicine, sometimes it might be Vicodin, and those are some of the drugs that really lead into cocaine use or heroin use or methamphetamine. They're all gateway drugs, but once they start taking those prescription pills, it's really scary. And I would say the thing that I would want parents really to think about is make sure you don't keep prescriptions around once you've taken the dose you're supposed to take. If you have leftovers, you can take it to the sheriff's station. I believe there's a box right out front for people, right, to drop all those off so they can be disposed of safely. And also just to remember that There's a lot of information out there that parents can be gaining all the time about the weird substances like the wax or the spice or the bath salts. There's something new coming out all the time, and with the ease of access through internet and social media, more students are being exposed to more things earlier and have access to get those things. Like when I was growing up, if I'd wanted to take drugs, I would have had to go out and find a drug dealer somewhere, which I wouldn't have had any clue how to even go about doing that. Nowadays, literally, it's as simple as typing in a few things online. And I think that's something that parents need to be really aware of with what their children are doing through social media, and then just what's in their house, in their rooms, on their cell phones. They really need to be aware because it's dangerous.
What good points, and particularly keep those prescription drugs locked up somewhere where the kids cannot possibly even perhaps know about them, let alone have access to them.
Absolutely. Don't ever underestimate, because we see it at a younger and younger age.
Well, Detective Velek, as you might surmise, you're next.
Okay.
Okay, we got a question for you. You're a member of the Sheriff's Juvenile Intervention Team. You see firsthand the faces of abuse. Before we get to some of the education intervention, can you talk a little about your experiences when you see addicted youth and how that impacts their families?
With regards to the families, it destroys the entire family, how it affects them. I've been on the juvenile intervention team since we started in 2010.
Yeah.
Been involved in it from a couple different positions. I'm the detective now. And the families that get involved, I go out with, when families call, they want help, they don't know what to do, and they really they're at a loss. A lot of our families just don't know what the world of drug abuse is about, or drug use. It's not even addiction yet, it's just drug use. Many of our parents don't know what the drugs are, they don't know how to find the stuff, and they're just at a loss to what this whole world is about. And then trying to get them into the resources they need, they don't know where to go, the families get confused, sometimes it can cause infighting within the family, the blame game starts, and there's really no one to blame. These things happen. Families will start to fight with each other while they're trying to deal with the abuse and sometimes the addictions. And it can destroy an entire family from all levels. Siblings that can't get along anymore, husbands and wives start arguing, the extended family, all of those things get ruined with the drug abuse.
Typically, when we have drugs being used by the youth in the home, they're doing everything they can to hide it from the parents.
Yes.
But as you've kind of touched upon, the truth of the matter is it's just a matter of time, and it starts having huge repercussions on the family element.
It does, because the family dynamic changes when someone in the family starts abusing any substance, whether if it's a parent being an alcoholic, a child starting to use drugs, the dynamic of the family changes. And the whole family feels it, and they may not recognize it because they don't know what it is. The parents that have never dealt with it, haven't seen drug abuse in the past, in their lives growing up as a child, don't recognize the symptoms that they see in their kids. So it gets too far along before it's recognized. So by us going out and educating and working with the city and with the school and having this whole collaborative effort that we have, we're educating the parents so that they can get ahead of it and start to recognize what it is they're seeing so that they can get to it earlier rather than later.
And I know in a few moments we're going to talk specifically about some of the things parents might be thinking about in preventing some of these catastrophic circumstances. One partnership the City of Santa Clarita has with the LA County 5th District is the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff's Department and the Hart School District. This partnership has brought the DeFi-IT program to each of the junior high and high schools in the Santa Clarita Valley. Ingrid, I got to tell you, I've been listening and watching and paying attention to the DeFi-IT program. I am so impressed with what I'm seeing. Could you talk about it, please?
Yes. I'm very pleased as well with my partners, too, in terms of how the program is going. We launched the DeFi-IT program, and that DeFi-IT is Drug for Youth in Town. We launched that last year. And during the first year of the program, we got a lot of energy going with the program on each of the different campuses. Mm-hmm. Last year, we had 800 students enrolled in the program in each of the different schools. But what we found is that those students were able to carry the drug-free message to their peers, which was 24,000 students. So what that means is, through the DeFi-IT program, the students participate in educational awareness activities, they volunteer in their community, they are required to take a drug test to prove that they are drug-free, and it's all peer-led. Because we all know that when we preach to a kid and we tell them, don't do this, don't do that, we might as well be talking to a wall. And students listen to their peers. They take it as gospel when they get that information from their peers. In terms of the second year, we're still gathering the data on the numbers, but I got to tell you, I'm very excited about what we're seeing so far. To date, just in the junior high schools alone, 2/3 of the members enrolled in the Defiant, it's almost 2/3 of the total number of what we had last year. So we're seeing that momentum pick up on each of the campuses, and students are getting engaged, they're getting excited, and they recognize that it is cool to be drug-free, and there are many alternatives to dabbling and using drugs.
What a tremendous program. Kathy, I'd like to hear your take on the Defiant program, and I know that the WMS Hart School District is involved in so many different matters, and maybe you can make comment about some of the others.
I would be happy to do that. Defiant has actually been wonderfully received on all of our campus. We have it at 6 junior highs, and it's also at all 6 of the comprehensive high school campuses. Every club right now is bursting at the seams, as Ingrid said. We're actually having to find new facility space on the campus for the club meetings, which is exciting for us. That's what we were hoping would happen. And it's more than just the students who choose to be in the clubs. It really is, we're looking for a culture change. And I'm seeing that when I go to all the big events that we have with the club members. We have had leadership conferences, we've had different kinds of forums where they all come together, or we just meet with their officers. And I'm really seeing that energy of the kids getting it. They want to spread this message to their generation that this isn't what they want their generation to be about, of drug use and abuse. They actually want to have goals set and work toward those goals. And they know if they can get that culture change happening, that peer pressure and all the things that happen that sometimes make them make that poor choice really will not be as powerful anymore. It's like wiping the power out from it. The neatest thing I saw was at the recent forums we went to, we had the students actually were all talking about the different experiences that they had personally had that led them to join the club. And what was exciting for me was when we initially presented the program, part of our fear was that the kids that would join would only be the kids who probably weren't planning on using drugs in their lifetime anyway, and that we would be missing a whole population of students that the program would benefit. And instead, that isn't the case. It is really a diverse mix of students, that some are from families where there's been drug abuse, some have already used drugs themselves and found out it wasn't the thing that they wanted to do, and other kids have always been drug-free and plan on staying that way. And it's that mix of all those kids that I think is exciting, because it's just not one clique or one group. It really is spreading across all of the students on all of the campuses. So we couldn't be more excited with what Defiant is doing right now. And our next step with that is reaching out into our elementary schools. Last year we had some assemblies, I believe at 6 of our elementary schools within 3 of the different districts. And this year we're going to be busing all of our 6th graders from all of the different districts over to their feeder junior high school to have a Defiant assembly that's called Lifelines. And it's to get them to bridge and make a connection with Defiant before they ever even start at junior high. So that we hope, again, that the program will just continue exploding as far as growth.
This is good news. I will tell you, approximately 6 months ago at City Hall, we invited law enforcement from various cities in the nearby area to join us and have a discussion about the Defiant program and how seemingly tremendously successful this program is becoming. So,
I get a lot of calls from other districts and other cities wanting to come out and meet with me actually to find out how we implemented the program, how they could model a program in their community. So it's been very successful.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
It is indeed. Detective Velek, we have heard on more than one occasion our Captain Becker talk about the combination of education, enforcement, and intervention. We'll talk in a moment about the education and outreach efforts like Heroin Kills, but can you talk about the stepped up enforcement and the importance of intervention?
With the stepped up enforcement, what I've been able to do at the station with the crime prevention unit that Captain Becker put in place along with the J team, the J team has gone out and tried to target what drug dealers we can find out there, where the drugs are coming from, in order to get the dealers in custody. When we identify these dealers, bad guys that need to go to jail, I can go to the crime prevention unit and have the resource of all those extra deputies that are involved in that, so we can get out, we can conduct our operations here locally and do what we need to do to stop the flow of drugs into our community, identifying how they're getting into the community and how they're being distributed. So that enforcement, along with the regular station narcotics division that has always been there, has really given us a larger pool of deputies to work from.
I see.
To go after the things that we need to go after. And I forgot the second part of your question.
Absolutely. Heroin is a deadly problem in many cities across the United States. Each one of you have been a part of the Heroin Kills public outreach program. Tell us about it.
For the public outreach, one of the things I do, because I am out there every day seeing these kids, talking to them, I go out with the, at Action Family Counseling, they have a TIDE program that's run through the school district for kids that are at risk or get caught on campus with some sort of alcohol or drugs. I go out and talk to those kids during the TIDE program. I spend at least an hour with them. And we talk about what they can expect from law enforcement, and I ask them about the things that they're seeing, so I can get from them what they're seeing on campus, what they're seeing after school, when people are using, how they're getting the drugs, and what drugs are coming into our community. Then I can take the information I get from them, pass it on to the deputies on the street. We can do that, and then I can I talk to the guys on the planning end of Defy It, and some of the instructors that teach Defy It, and let them know what we're seeing from the kids, so we can get. And then I get the information back from the Defy It too, and then
put it all together.
And put it all together, and just the communication between the city, the schools, and us, we get a full picture of what's going on in our community, so that each of us can attack the part of the issue that we have the ability to attack.
Ingrid from City Hall, how do you see it?
In terms of the outreach and the campaign, I believe the city made a great decision in terms of going with the Heroin Kills campaign. And, as we started planning to roll out that campaign, we started thinking about how's our community going to respond to this issue? And we're thrilled with what we're hearing. We have folks that have shared with us, we're glad that the city and partners are talking about it. And we've had people say, I had no idea that there was heroin in Santa Clarita, and thank you for sharing this valuable information with us so that we know how to protect our children. We host a symposium annually, and we have a panel of different representatives participate in the symposium. We have a recovering addict, we have the parent of an addict, we've had the school district, the sheriff's department, we've had local nonprofits like Action and A Light of Hope. And
All coming together.
All coming together. And we've even had people from the audience say, I need help today. And we've been able to put people in recovery through providing that resource. And I guess my last comment would be is through this whole media campaign, we have reached communities as far as Naperville, Illinois, that have asked us, how did you implement that campaign? Can we use the information that you're sharing? And they are now implementing a similar campaign to Heroin Kills.
Good to hear. We touched upon this earlier, and I want to discuss it now in our few minutes that we have remaining, and that is, what can we tell parents that'll make a difference so that they don't go through some of the heartache that we have seen with families here in Santa Clarita? Kathy, I'll start with you.
Well, I would say a few things. First of all, I would tell all parents to be a parent and not be a friend.
Yes.
That would be my number one piece of advice. Know what's in your house, know what your kids are doing, know where they're at, and don't feel like anything you purchase and pay for is off limits to you. I just feel like we have went overboard on the side of, respecting privacy of our children as opposed to being more concerned about their safety and welfare and doing our job as parents. So I think that would be my biggest tip to all parents.
I want to hitchhike on that if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
When you said the privacy part.
Yes.
Mom and dad are in charge. Yeah. They are the ones paying the bills. Mm-hmm. And when I hear parents say, well, that's their room and that's their domain, I think, what are you doing?
Yes.
You're in charge of that house, every corner of that house, and you absolutely have a responsibility as a parent to know exactly what's going on in every corner of that house and in every drawer. Thank you for that comment.
No,
Dr. Velek.
I would think about just the parents need to be diligent with it. They need to constantly be on point and constantly be there to check their kids and make sure that things are going right. It reminds me of one young man that came in. He was a heroin addict. He was now in his mid-20s. And I asked him during my interview with him what, if anything, his parents could have done in his mind to keep him from going down the path he went. And we talked about his contact with his parents when he came home after being out and either drinking or using drugs. And he said he knew how to move around the room and not actually have that conversation with his parents. And I asked him if your parents would have just made you stop for a minute or two after you came home or before you went to bed, and you had that eye-to-eye contact just for a couple of minutes every day, would that have stopped you? And he thought it would have. And that was coming from the addict. He believed that just if his mom or dad had just every day, and it's asking a lot of a parent, every day stopping and just having a 1 minute, 2 minute conversation. And it just gets back to...
Would have made the difference.
It would have made the difference, because as parents, we see our kids and we know when something's wrong. As a parent's going to recognize the change in their child on a daily basis. And it's almost bringing that family dinner back and having that time across the table in a face-to-face conversation
Absolutely.
with no distractions. Because he was able to take the distraction of just making his lunch for school the next day or feeding the dog. Just as long as there was a distraction, he avoided the one-on-one contact with a parent while he was using. And he thinks that would have stopped him.
Ingrid, in 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds, research shows youth that are engaged with their family, community, and their schools are less likely to engage in risky behaviors such as using drugs. Parents have to be engaged, and we have got to make our kids be involved in their communities and school, whether that's at church, if it's volunteering, if it's walking the dogs, if it's talking to your neighbors. You have to keep your kids busy and constructively involved, and that will certainly make a difference.
The one thing I have heard from all three of you in one form or another is as a parent, be involved with your young children. And throughout, as long as they're in your home, of course, communicate and talk. Sit at the dinner table, as you indicated. And that's one of the things here in Santa Clarita I'm so proud of, is that we have so many opportunities to bring the family element together, primarily, but not limited to, our athletic programs here in Santa Clarita, which are probably without equal anywhere in Southern California. But these keep the family element strong, and keeping a strong, healthy family element keeps drug addiction away. Absolutely. I want to thank you for taking the time to join us today. I can't tell you how important this topic is for families here in Santa Clarita. It's important for families all across our country, as we opened up with. And I would like to wish each of you the best of luck. Thank you for watching this at home. It is my hopes that some of what we have talked about today will put a good use by all the families. Thank you, and have a good night.